Now we are live. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to 2016's first edition of our VELUX EHF Champions League Expert Hangouts. The last 16 is starting with their first match tomorrow, and as we made it a habit to have a current player on our Hangouts, I'm very, very pleased that we could make it happen again tonight. And I welcome Christian O'Sullivan from IFK Kristianstad here. Hi, Christian, how are you?
Hi, thanks, I'm fine.
Perfect. Very glad that you're joining us tonight, and very happy to introduce you to tonight's experts, very regular faces. Hi, Tom, ehfTV commentator, of course you know him. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Thomas. Christian, good to see you.
Nemanja,
and the other two as well, of course, sorry.
Very heartily welcome to Nemanja Savic as well. He's joining us from Belgrade. Hi, Nemanja, how are you?
Very good, Thomas. Hello, everybody.
And the smiling face on my screen is to the very left, Björn Pazen, who does not know him, I think.
Maybe someone. Hello.
Well, guys, the last 16 will be obviously play a huge role in our topic. But first question goes to Christian, and it was well, it couldn't be any closer, I have to probably say. Obviously, there was well, 1 point, 1 goal, depending on how you look at it, missing. Christian, nevertheless, how was this? It was the first season for you. Give us the look back. How was that for you?
I think we're really happy with how we played, at least at home, against a lot of good teams. And we played close games against a lot of good teams, but in the end we just didn't have enough points. We should have been Montpellier at home, and that would hopefully have been enough to get through. But like you said, it's our first year in the Champions League, and we met a lot of good teams, and I think we made a good impression.
Are you still looking back at these games, like the 29-30 defeat against Montpellier, this I think it was 35-35 against Kiel? So, I mean, just by looking at the pure math, so to say, if you had scored 1 more goal in either of these games, it would have been enough.
Yeah, and I think we lost by 2 in Vardar away as well, the third game before the end. So yeah, we had a lot of chances, but I don't think we really had that experience to get us through. But a lot of young guys got to play big roles in our team and play a lot of minutes, and we just need to learn. It's our first season here for a lot of us, so it was a good experience for us.
What was that like for you, making that big step from the Swedish domestic league suddenly to the big international stage, the VELUX EHF Champions League?
At least for me, it helped playing some national games from Norway before, because it's a different level than you're used to, and the margin for error is so small, like we experienced this year. If we had played a little better in some games, we would have had a good chance to go through. So I think we learned a lot. We're a young team, and hopefully we can play there next year as well.
Tom, what was it like for you seeing Kristianstad joining the Champions League?
Before we get into that, Thomas, I just want to say, Jag älskar Norge, jag heter Tom. That's my Norwegian for the night for Christian O'Sullivan, even though he's an Irish guy and he doesn't know it. And by the way, can I just say to Christian, congratulations on being the first scorer in the Champions League, and I chose him. And also to say that for me, even though the final of the Euros was played between Germany and Spain, for me the final was Germany against Norway. It was one of the best games of handball I saw at international level for a long time, and I mean, Christian's going to be sitting there for the rest of his life, thinking back on 2016, going, 1 more goal. Well, you know, the poor guy. But what was it like? Well, let's put it in. You know, in in context. At the start of the thing, we had a Google Hangout, and we all sniffed at Kristianstad being in Group A, or Group A and B. Remember, we talked about it and we said, what the hell are these guys doing here? In fact, if I look back at it, which I probably will never do again, I probably said something like, these guys haven't a hope of getting a point. They're the whipping boys of the group. And actually, it was completely the opposite. What they did was, and I gave them my number one in the power ranking, Thomas, in the come on the orange, as I say. I gave them my number one, not because they were the best team in the Champions League, but because they proved everybody wrong. And what they did was they brought a freshness in the way that they played handball. And you know, it's kind of a poison chalice for them, because Christian's sitting there saying, you know, let's hope we get another chance next year. But they will lose a lot of players. For sure, they will lose a lot of players from that team, because bigger teams will look at these boys. I think a few of them will already move on. Björn will know better, the encyclopedia that's sitting there. And they will move on from the team. And it's one of those poison chalices. How wonderful would it be to see that team staying together and to see how they would perform next year? But they absolutely fully deserve their place in the big groups in the end. And as you've already said, they only got out by a hair, and they were incredible to watch. Really, really fresh, fast. It was just great. I have to say, there aren't enough compliments that I can pay all of those guys for the way they played and the joy they brought. For me to see a young team playing that brand of handball.
Nemanja, what was it like for you and seeing them?
Well, refreshing to say the least. You know, it's always nice to see something a team considered an underdog, you know, doing well, like a Kristianstad. I knew some of the players that came into the team that were fairly unknown from the EHF Challenge Cup in the previous seasons that I watched very randomly, I have to say. But the Kristianstad team was very well balanced, and they definitely showed amazing strengths of the amazing collective strength, and that's something that stood up for me. At times they really played like the best of them. So great job.
Björn, combining your knowledge of future transfers and what you saw of Kristianstad this season, are they a team that we will see more of in the next season, maybe longer than that?
I had the great honor to write the first match review on this season. It was Kristianstad and Kolding, and I really was impressed by this team. And I think this, maybe Christian will agree, that match gave him a lot of confidence, that they knew that we can reach something on home ground. So I would say I would absolutely agree with Tom if the team stays together. But like players like Björn will leave, and some others also. So, but it's always in Sweden. It's always the same. In Sweden, they know, the players know, the clubs know that the best Swedish talents, sometimes they will move abroad. First to Denmark or Germany, and maybe later on to Spain. This is the regular way it goes. So now even to Hungary or Poland. And when you see, I still remember the 2013 Junior World Championship in Bosnia. There were a lot of players which we will see now in the Champions League or other major international competitions, like Steenman from playing in Spain, in La Rioja, for example. And everybody in Sweden knows that this is their fate. There are some football clubs which exist also, knowing that we find the talents and we sell them to bigger clubs, and that we earn enough money to find more talents. And I think this is the fate of Sweden. And I think we talk about this refreshing players, and also talk about this refreshing coach who has the same haircut as Tom with Ula. And I really like the way he's doing his job in the national team and also in the club level. So I would also say I hope the player agrees that there's some percentage of the success is also for the coach.
Do you? I see you nodding, Christian, so you do agree?
Yeah, yes. We knew that playing against better opposition, we had to play a different style of handball. We need to be good in defense and run a lot on almost everything. Because we knew if we played 7 against 7 a lot, then we probably wouldn't win a lot of games, because the teams we meet are better than us playing 7 against 7. So we needed to be really good in the counter-attack, and I think we were taking many steps this year of improving in that area.
Mm.
Sorry, Thomas, can I just say, because Christian, you know, he seems a very modest guy. I interviewed him quite a lot up in the Euros. In fact, he was the first guy I went to, you know, see could I actually get him to smile. It's not easy. But he's a very modest guy. And actually, the team, including Norway and including Kristianstad for me, although the Icelandic boy, can't think of his name now, who also plays in the centre while Christian was out, did very well. Christian can remind me what his name is. Something.
Gudmundsson.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, the team, both teams, national team for Norway and Kristianstad, played extremely well with Christian in the middle. I mean, he brings something to the team, and you know, I don't know what's going on with the big teams, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him in different colours in the next season or two. I think he's got an incredible talent. He probably doesn't even realise it himself, but watching from the outside, he's a glue in the team. He really drives them forward. And every time I saw him play, and I'm not just saying that because he's here, but every time I saw him play, you know, Tolbring and these other guys might get more credit. But every time I saw this fella play in the middle, I just thought he was absolutely sensational. He's just got a great brain for playing handball, and he's got an Irish spirit. You know, I'm just saying that because his name is O'Sullivan. But really, he just gives 100%, and you know, I mean, all credit to him, because I remember when I mentioned his name first and said he was going to be the first guy to score the goal, I just did it for a joke, you know, because his name was O'Sullivan, and I thought, come on, you've got to pick the Irish guy. And somebody wrote back to me, I remember on Twitter, saying, O'Sullivan won't even get a game, he'll be on the bench. Well, your man's eating his hat now, you know, that guy's completely in his words. And here he is sitting here now, and he's a player that we all know, and I'm sure a lot of big coaches are going to be watching him. There's no Christian, I'm telling you now, you've impressed the hell out of me this season. I mean, the whole team, but when you're there, there's something just a little stronger. You pull everything together, and he's so modest, Thomas. I have to say that for him. In fact, I'm getting his number after this game. I'll be his agent.
I just wanted to say that please give Tom's bank account to him. So for the brace, I think this was €10, something.
Yeah, at least 10%, you know.
Christian, well, a lot of praise for you, a lot of praise for your team. Looking back personally at this season, what has been your personal highlight, like on the club level? Obviously, I mean, reaching the Euro semi-final with Norway was maybe overshadowing everything. But if we focus on the club level here.
I think we had a lot of good games in Kristianstad as well. Of course, winning the first home game gave us a lot of confidence, beating Kolding. But I think for me, beating Rhein-Neckar at home, a team that just lost once before in the Champions League and was undefeated in the Bundesliga. For me, that was the best game for us this season. And we played splendid handball for almost 60 minutes and ended up beating them by 4 or 5 goals. And I don't think anyone in the team thought we would have a chance to get 2 points, but Ola gave us the confidence and just say, go out and try. So we made an effort, and we got 2 points against Leuven. So for me, that's definitely the best memory from Kristianstad this season.
Thomas, can I just jump in there? I just because Peter Brun is not with us tonight. You know, Peter, who normally is with us on the Hangouts and deals with all things Scandinavian. I remember that first Hangout, and he was the only guy that said, listen, nobody's going to have it easy in Kristianstad. He said, wait till you see the arena. Everyone wearing orange. A bunch of lunatic Vikings, male and female, screaming every 5 seconds for their team. And I have to say, the atmosphere up there, Christian, it must have given you guys an extra couple of goals in every game.
Yeah, we have amazing fans here. The main supporters are called Söderkurvan, and they come on almost every away game as well. I think there were like 200 people flying to Barcelona for a second game. So we have amazing fans here, and Of course, we owe a lot to them because getting the support from the stands is really important, at least against good teams, to give you that extra confidence, that boost. So without them, I don't think we would have been able to come so close.
I tell you though, Thomas, I wouldn't be overly worried now about Montpellier having beaten them at home, because now that we see Montpellier having beaten Paris Saint-Germain in the Final Four League Cup in France, maybe we've underestimated them in the season.
But I think we'll move to the underdogs, well, the alleged underdogs in the Champions League in a second. Christian, just one more question for you in Kristianstad. I think it's not looking too bad in the Swedish league for you at the moment. I think you're ahead by 10 points. Having the season you've played in the Champions League and this positive situation at the moment in the Swedish league, has this all created a bit of a hunger for more for you, looking ahead to what's probably coming come September next year? Is there room for more?
Yeah, of course. We're always hungry for more, and we set a new high in points this season in the Swedish league, and we have still 4 games left. So I think we lost 2 games and won the rest. So we always want to do better, and I think there's that hunger in the team of always trying to be better, and that's fun with playing with young guys. They always want to improve, and we have a really good coaching staff, and sometimes it's been hard in the Swedish league after traveling in Europe and then coming back and then playing 3 games in 6 days. But I think our bottom level this season has been really high. So sometimes we could play not so good in the Swedish league, but still get 2 points, and that's because we have a good squad.
Moving on to the last 16. Christian, like of your teams in Group B, and I don't know how much time you could afford and how much time you spend on watching the teams in Group A, which teams did impress you the most? Actually, the ones that eventually ended up on top, Barcelona and Paris, or were there other ones?
Of course, there are always. I think the top 4 teams in each group easily could have been number 1, at least in our group. Barcelona came a little ahead, but in the other group there was Veszprem, Flensburg and Paris. It stood within the end, and I think Flensburg has played really well the last couple of games, but when you have Nikola Karabatic and Mikkel Hansen in the same team, it's hard not to have Paris as your favorites.
Tom, would you agree? Was it such a close competition that it could have gone literally either way among the 4 teams in Group A and Group B?
I would definitely say yes in Group A. I think that we saw that if Flensburg had beaten Veszprem in that game, which was for me one of the best games of the season, the one where Veszprem won in Flensburg by 1 just the second last weekend, I think we would have seen Flensburg win in Paris. I think that Flensburg could have won in Paris, and I think that they realized they had either a trip to Zaporozhye in the Ukraine where you could get broken in 2, or you could play Montpellier, and I think that they weren't so stupid, I think a nice trip to the south of France with the sunshine is nicer than a trip over to Ukraine. So very, very close there. It's a funny thing. Group B was a bit weirder. Group B was a strange group because Barcelona have topped the group, and yet they haven't particularly played well. I don't think anybody can say Barcelona have been absolutely fantastic. What they managed to get really, really good this season, and I'm sure Christian could tell us even better, was their defence. Something about Sorando and Viran in the middle there. They're just like a wall, and those 2 goalkeepers, Savic and Perez de Vargas, have just had outstanding seasons, and that's the main reason. If you look at the Paris attack, the Barcelona attack, it hasn't particularly performed brilliantly. Although Kiel must be wondering why they let Vail Jalouse go. I mean, the guy's just like, I don't know where that arm came from, the jump and everything else. Maybe that style suits him better. But it's their defence that's done it for them. And then after that, you look at Kiel, so they really haven't done it really this season. I mean, I think they were very lucky to come away with a point from Kristianstad, to be perfectly honest, even though they could have won the game. They were hockeyed over in Vardar. They're winning by the odd goal, and the real highlight for them is winning away in Barcelona. But Barcelona, I think, won that at a canter. I think Barcelona just took the 2 points where they needed to take it, and the other teams just couldn't keep up. So in Group B, there was no doubt in my mind after about 5 or 6 games that Barcelona were going to do it. And in Group A, you just didn't know until the second last weekend.
Nemanja, there's a question regarding Barcelona that came up here in our pre-discussions. They came first now. They won't have to play the last 16, and obviously there's always with the competition in the Azabal this question. Aren't these games in the Champions League where they face tougher games, aren't they necessary for them? So is like missing out on these 2 games that they would have played if they hadn't placed first, is that a disadvantage for them? So that they come kind of cold into the quarterfinals?
Well, I wouldn't say it's an advantage, but I definitely wouldn't say it's something that they could have done without. I think that the Champions League is actually a place that they're actually building their form upon. So it's not the Spanish league. You know, I watched Spanish league a couple of weekends ago, and I was bored sick. You know, with the 11 goals difference and stuff like that. But it's a Champions League where Barcelona's squad is made for, and I think that not playing, actually missing the round, it's not particularly good for them, especially if they got an unfavorable draw afterwards. But with a team like Barcelona, you know, it's just a small margin for anything that's going to happen and make a difference. So in my opinion, it could, but it's not necessary that it should make any difference.
How do you see this, Björn?
I say usually what Xavi Pascal is saying, season starts in March. So in March he does not even have a match, international match this year, because the quarterfinals are in April. So I don't know if it's a lost month then for Barcelona. But when you see the last year they played, I think, against Aalborg. Against Aalborg. They beat them 2 times by 14 and 16 goals or something to get in the shape for the quarterfinals. So I don't think Xavi Pascal is clever enough, and he has the squad to say, I'm ready. I would say, as we're talking about these matches also, as it's clear they will face the winner of Kiel against Szeged, and they exactly know they have 1 month now to prepare. I would say, as I'm German, okay, I would say they're already starting preparing on THW Kiel now. So this is what they can do, because they don't have an opponent in that time. And one thing to what Tom was saying, it was very interesting what he said about the attack of Barcelona. And I say that you see it, the difference is in which club Nikola Karabatic is playing. Nikola Karabatic, not only of what he's doing on his own, but he's always what he's doing for the team. So, and this year they don't have him. Yisha was out nearly most of the season now, but he's coming back. So they really did not do more than they needed, and I would say they will impress us in April as they have the March to prepare.
Yeah, Björn, it's actually not the first time I hear the comment about Karabatic. Actually, one of my friends that were coaching, they say, well, whichever team Karabatic chooses to play, that's the team that's going to play in the final. So that's actually quite a lot to it. He may be the difference maker alongside Hansen, you know, who could play against him. But I think that the thing that Tom said about Barca defense is actually the key point for them this season. That's something that they didn't have previously, and that toughness in defense, that extra toughness, is just something that should make for the loss of Karabatic, I think.
And don't forget the 4.25 or what they signed for this season in Kopelja and Zubchak, which they also can use as building another wall.
Yeah, definitely.
Thomas, I just sorry, Nemanja, to cut across you there. First things first. All of these players played in the Euro that are playing with Barcelona, just about, right? So they have a month of tough handball, international handball under their belt. You asked Christian how tough that tournament was. Bloody hell, that's hard. Then you come back to another 4 international matches at Champions League level. That means they've played for almost 8 weeks solid at a really high level. Now, all of these guys have got families just about. They're married or they've got girlfriends. 2 weekends off is a blessing. Allows the body to recover. They spend time with their family, their kids. They come back and life is good again, right? These guys are traveling all over the world with the Champions League season the way it was this season. Christian's sitting right there. There's no time off. You're never at home. You're either in an airport or you're on a handball court or you're in a hotel. 2 weekends right now, Thomas. There's a reason teams went for the top spot. And you might argue and say they're out of the competition for 2 weeks, but when you're at this level with the likes of PSG and Barcelona, these 2 weeks give you a chance to recover from any little niggles, any little problems, spend time home with the family, watch the other teams killing each other, and you're sitting there going, we'll be ready, boys. You know, that's the way I would look at it.
Will you be watching the last 16, Christian? Will you be?
Yeah, of course. It's a highlight always to watch from the final 16 because there's so many good teams and there's so many good players. And I don't think Kiel will have it that easy against Szeged, as you guys think. Szeged at home is hard. And Löwen had problems there, so I don't think that Kiel would have it easy there as well. But with Kiel, it's not their players. They have one of the best squads in the world. It's just how they play on that day. But I think if Bombac has a good day, then everyone will have problems against Szeged.
That's true. Yeah.
Are we talking about the Kiel Szeged again?
Let's start. I was thinking about going for the Underdog first up. I will, now that we are straight into Kiel Szeged. Tom, go ahead with Kiel Szeged. Would you agree with Chris, what Christian just said?
Do you know, the funny thing is, he's absolutely right. And Bombac had a terrible game against Vardar. I mean, really a poor game. And you saw that Szeged couldn't beat Vardar, and Vardar won. Vardar had a great game, by the way. I don't want to just put it down to Bombac, but he's the glue. He's everything, and that's the Spanish school, isn't it? You know, if the center player is playing well, then the whole team plays well. That's the way they do it.
And that's a Spanish coach on the other side, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, the other side, Karacic and Sindrich played fantastic that day. So it sort of shows you. But here's what I would say about Kiel. Kiel is Kiel. And I spoke to a bit like what Christian said there. I spoke to Pastor that day, you know, and he was already thinking, shit, if we lose this game today, we're playing Kiel. And he said the exact same thing to me. Kiel is Kiel. Doesn't matter who's missing. If they're all walking around on one leg, those last 10 minutes, if we have to win that game in the Sparkasse, that's why Panzer is sitting there at the moment with a big smile on his face, saying that Barcelona are already thinking about Kiel. Because Barcelona are thinking the same thing. Kiel is Kiel. They've had the worst season of injuries anybody's ever seen in the history of the world since Moses led the Israelites through the desert. You know what I mean? Where people were falling away by the wayside. Look at them. They're top of the Bundesliga still. Can you believe that? How's that possible? You know, they qualify for the last 16, have one of the worst seasons, and beat Veszprem. How's it possible? For me, one of the best teams in the Champions League, they win it. And you look at them against Zagreb, you look at them against Celje, you look at them against Plock. They should have lost all those games at home, and they win them. I mean, these guys, I don't know what it is about that arena. I think people actually need to go to the toilet before they play a game in the Sparkassen arena. Get there 1 hour early, reserve all the toilets in the arena, and get rid of everything that might be there, because that's the only way you're going to be able to play Kiel.
Yeah, Björn, even in the most horrible season that Kiel, according to Tom, has played since Moses times, which is I think about 5,000 years ago or even longer. Are Kiel still Kiel?
So at first, Moses did not have to replace 3 line players when he went to the ship. So, but I guess that Kiel is still against Kiel, and it's exactly what Tom said. If you've ever been to a match in Sparkassen Arena and the sound of this ship horn is ringing, I think all opponents say, "Wow!" When 10,285 persons shouting for Kiel, and you hear this ship horn, and Szeged had exactly the same last year. They won in the quarterfinal, they won the first leg at home by 2 or 3 goals. Then they came to Kiel, and I think after 12 minutes it was a +8 for Kiel. This will not happen this year because Szeged is well prepared and Kiel has not the same squad as they had last time. But when you see what for me is very important is that Alfred Gislason now had the time to integrate those new players he needed to integrate, like Brozovic or Janima. And what is for the confidence of the team is highly important, Dominic Klein is back. Dominic Klein is, when you see how he celebrates the goal, he pushes all the team, and he's really pushing the team to the limit together with the fans. So I would say it might be, it can happen that Kiel will again lose at Szeged, but I don't think that again in one season they lose 2 home matches in Champions League. I did not have to look at all statistics when it happened the last time, but it must be when Moses had arrived back in Kiel with this ship. So so I would say they make it, because this is the extra motivation that they have. They have matches against Barcelona. For Kiel, Barcelona is something like PSG or Flensburg. This is what they always said is this is why we train so hard to face Barcelona in the knockout stage. And this is, of course, can be the motivation for Szeged. But I guess Kiel, with having the second leg at home, is the favorite. That's all.
Nemanja, do you have a biblical reference that speaks in favor of Szeged?
Well, not quite, but I do have a reference regarding the arena that speaks in favor of Szeged. I've only been there once, but it's well, not as intimidating as a Sparkassen arena, because Björn told me, we were in Budapest, and he told me the whole story about the Sparkassen arena and the intimidation factor, and it's really, if I were a player, I wouldn't rush to go there. But regarding Szeged, they really have a chance. They really have a chance, especially as they had last season to nick one, to dent Kiel a little bit. So in a return fixture, is going to be very difficult to for Kiel actually to stand up to their favorites credential, because you can say whatever you want about their season. Kiel are always favorites whenever you say Kiel. So Kiel is Kiel. But Szeged, as they are right now, Bombac is playing their last season for Szeged, so it's going to be the extra motivation for them. And the thing that they're doing now, I think that their form is on the rise actually, and I think that's just a little bit extra to give more troubles and more nightmares to the Kiel players before they go there.
Thomas, can I just want to say,
no vote horn, by the way, but.
There was a great article. There was a great article on the EHF CL website. I think it might have been written by one of the young ladies from Poland, and it was a great quote in it where the Plock players basically said, "Vardar is under pressure." This is the Plock Vardar game, but it's the Kiel Szeged game is a little bit similar in the philosophy, and the Plock player said, "Our job is to go as far as we can go every year in the Champions League. Vardar's philosophy is to get to the Final Four, so that puts them under more pressure." Okay, and in a sense, maybe Szeged is thinking the same thing. Our thing is to go as far as we can go, but for Kiel, it's always to be there, to be in with a chance of winning the trophies. And sometimes I think that drives you that little bit further. You know, you can go along and sort of say we've nothing to lose, and you might get a result. Having said that, I agree with Nemanja. I think this is probably one of the closest of the games. Kiel Szeged is one I wouldn't like to call, but you would just maybe, because Kiel is Kiel, you might just give them the nod. But I wouldn't say no to this Szeged team, and especially at home, they're very strong.
Yeah, but guys, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, no. Staying with this game that you just mentioned, Vardar against Plock. So you say, Tom, this is a game you think you would be happy to call?
Yes, I would, because I think that, although I think Plock is a fantastic team at the moment, and we all saw they beat Kielce in the Holy War there the other day, and they beat them apparently quite convincingly at home. But remember last year they went with a 6-goal lead, if I'm not mistaken, to Vardar.
Yeah.
And they didn't turn up on the day. I mean, I could see after 2 minutes of the game there was no fighting them at all. this Janne Sandanski Stadium, my God, would make the ground shift beneath your feet. It is. By the way, congratulations to Kristianstad. I don't know who was defending that day. What was it, 38-36? Something ridiculous like that. But I watched the game again, and it was just it was amazing. But Christian was there. He'll tell you. Christian, what's it like over there? The atmosphere is just frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, I was told before the game that no matter where you play, Vardar away is the worst place you can play. And I think it can compare to Sparkassa Arena. If you don't have enough goals from the first leg against Vardar, you have no chance. It's a team that's extremely hard to beat away. I don't know if the Croatian middle back will be back, but I think Sinders, at least against us in the last Champions League games, played really good. So I think they have a good chance to go through. But Plock showed against West Brom 2 times that they can play really good against good teams. So I wouldn't write them off, at least when they can beat Kiel as well. So I think it will be interesting, and I will definitely try to watch those games.
Yeah, but I would call it Thomas. I would say Vardar for me over 2 legs. And by the way, I love the way the Pots team's playing. I mean, when you look at them, they're constantly changing. I think Manolo's done a great job over there. They can play wonderful handball. They should have beaten Kiel in Kiel, didn't. But look at what happened to them in their own backyard. They were absolutely hammered by Kiel, 14 goals. And they lose some terrible games, they make some mistakes. But this new guy they've brought in, De Toledo, is that his name? What a great name for a player. De Toledo. I mean,
like a movie star.
It's like a movie star. I just want to commentate a game with Pots playing just so I can say, De Toledo from Nine. I just want to say his name. You know? That's it. And then I can retire. I can retire happy.
Yeah, Vardar, you know. Don't get me started on Vardar, but I'll make it short.
I get you started on Vardar. Go ahead.
Cool. Well, Vardar this season, what can you say about them? I wrote extensively about their defense and what they're doing, and you may say that their defensive record is not as good as in the first half of the season, and you may say that their game in the form has deteriorated since the rampant start in the group. But what you can't say is that they don't know how to prevent a leading player to play, and they can make a rubbish player out of Kiro Lazarov with their defense. And you've seen it. You're going to see it against any of the Wisla players. You're going to see it against lethal Wisla semi-counter, which is one of the biggest weapons. And you're definitely going to see their best players and their high scores shut down at Janne Sandanski, and they're going to say, okay guys, let's see your other cards. Let's see what else you can bring us. So that's Vardar, that's Raul Gonzalez, that's his system, and they're just a meticulously prepared team, and I wouldn't bet against them, but it's far from a certain call. But I wouldn't bet against Vardar at this point. Wisla might win at home. It might be a close one, but in Janne Sandanski, no chance.
Christian, Tom quoted the Prots player who said, "Look, Prots, we always, want to just go as far as possible. Whereas Vardar obviously have this pressure, so to say, to potentially reach Cologne. After having played them twice this season, do you think they are a team that is ready for this, or is it like at their current level, from your point of view, the quarterfinal maybe the maximum they can reach?
I think with Karasic back, they have a good chance to reach the Final Four. Underrated player, and Sinders has played really well as well this past couple of games, but it depends on who they meet. It's hard. Yeah, okay. But they have Arpad Starbik. He's one of the worst goalies to shoot on. I think he needs to play lights out if they should have a chance against West Brom. There's a reason they usually win the league they play in against Vardar and the other teams from the east, but of course they have a chance. They have national players in every position, but I think Veszprem looks strong this year. I think their defense is one of the best, up there with Barcelona. So I think they will be hard to beat if they. And I think it's you guys as well that they will have problems in Plock, but I think they will go ahead and win and go through from the last 16. But Veszprem isn't an easy team to meet, and I think Veszprem has more pressure to be in the final four than Vardar has. So my favorites there will be Veszprem.
Mm.
So just to go back to this Plock Vardar, one short sentence is Plock only have a chance in the great duel of the young against the old Spanish goalkeeper if Corrales is 120 minutes on 120%. This is the only chance Plock have.
Mm. And by the way, Thomas, because it's always nice to give a good mention, Corrales has been fantastic this season for them. He's been really, really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, even topped his last season, which was excellent in a way.
Yeah, no, I think he's an outstanding young goalkeeper.
Yeah, but what if Vardar's second goalkeeper steps up, Milic?
Well, I watched him in a game. He played in some game where I watched him, and he came in for Sterbic after 20 minutes. Oh, actually, it was the game I was at. Was it the game I was at? It was the game I was at.
I think it is.
Was it the Szeged game? They played Szeged, did they? Yeah, it was match of the week, Szeged against Vardar, and my God, this guy Milic was just incredible, amazing. And then they've got Angelov as well. I mean, they've got three really good goalkeepers over there. But I mean, who's gonna push Sterbic out of the goal? There's Christian O'Sullivan. I mean, he's faced him. He knows. I mean, when you're facing a man who's almost as wide as the goal, it's not easy to find the space.
And moves as much as the post.
Imagine the two of them in goal.
Yeah.
Nowhere to put the ball through.
No.
You just shoot a ping pong at them.
I have to say though, Thomas, I have to say that I'm a big believer that as a which is why I really enjoyed watching Kristianstad this season. I don't want to keep harking back to it, but we need change, and I don't want to hark back to the Euros, but I'm going to anyway. It was great to see new teams in the knockout phase, in the kind of the semi-final phase. And I really believe that for the Champions League, we need other teams to be challenging the same sort of Final Fours, that we've had for the last couple of seasons, just to keep everything fresh. I think that's important. And it would be wonderful for Vardar to do it. I can't see them doing it. I can see them doing it in this leg. Let's wait and see after that. But it would be wonderful to see somebody like Vardar there, because the Macedonian fans are incredibly faithful and travel in their numbers,
I was just about to say that it would be brilliant for Cologne's pubs if Vardar qualify.
The economy hangout is next door, but Tom, when you talk about change, let's kind of translate that into surprise on the level of the last 16. Do you see any change? Arguably, Zaporozhye against Veszprem, that's a very long shot, but for any of these teams that came from Group C and D, Zaporozhye and Brest, or for the two teams that placed, sixth. Well, we've talked about Plock, but we haven't talked about Montpellier yet. To spring a surprise in this upcoming round.
I'll keep this as short as I can, Thomas. They haven't a snowball's chance in hell. Any of them. Good.
That's Björn.
That's pretty much to the point, right?
Yeah, I think.
Well, I mean, let's look at it. Veszprem will play.
I was just about to say that this was Tom's shortest answer ever, but now it stops.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, let's look at it. Zappers will play Veszprem. Absolutely no chance. Christian's right. I mean, Veszprem is one of the. I mean, they came second, but to me, they are absolutely one of the class teams.
The most consistent. Yes.
My goodness me. Brest will play Kiel. Brest might give them a good game over there because Kielce haven't been brilliant this season, but in the end, Kielce will have enough class to see themselves through with Talent Duchabayev. Montpellier will play SG Flensburg. Hand of it, they will lose. They will lose. They will lose. I don't care if they won the league, the coupe, or whatever they won in France, and I'm delighted for them. But they've no chance. They've been one of the poorest teams in the Champions League this season. And then the other game is, help me out. Yeah, we mentioned them already. There you go. Vardar. Yeah. So my feeling is the gap is too wide. It's too wide. The only chance these guys had was that there would be an open draw, and then something might work out. But the way it is now, you can't see any of those teams. I mean, you don't come second in Group A or Group B to play the top of Group C and D and lose it. Sorry, I can't even envisage that happening, Thomas.
Björn, when Tom made his snowball in hell comment, your face, well, it was like that. Do you think that, I mean, I kind of interpreted that one of them might have a tiny little chance, a bit more than a snowball in hell, or do you generally agree?
I would say that if any team has a chance for a surprise to have a close aggregate result, then it's Brest against Kielce. But as Tom knows that I have a quite good view on statistic, Flensburg never won any match in France in their whole Champions League history. So this might be a chance for Montpellier to win, but they will not win as far as they need to eliminate them. So I absolutely agree with Tom that those four teams have no chance. And Brest gave away, I don't know exactly, Nemanja is the expert. I saw, I can only be that there was a problem between player and coach, how Brest could let Nikola Manojlovic go away. He's playing in Germany again because he was a cornerstone of the defense. Yeah. And they have now in favor, what I also heard is that Janko Bozovic, the top scorer of them, is playing in Qatar now for the Emir Cup and is also not there. So I would see that Brest without Manojlovic and with Bozovic, they have no chance. With them, maybe a little.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, Björn. It's quite a different team that it was in the group stage, and even in the group stage, it was very understated team because nobody cares about what Meshkov is doing because all the big ones are fighting for the top spots, and Meshkov is definitely never going to be the Final Four material, at least not this season. But without Manojlovic, definitely cornerstone in the defense. Very intelligent player, the one that commands everything on the pitch. But you also have Stojkovic in top form, and he has been the go-to guy after everything that's happened, and he's been the go-to guy. And you also have one more aspect you should look at it. It's the Ceja League. As soon as the Ceja League starts, winding down to the Final Four, or whatever they call it, you see the Ceja teams thinking about another competition, because it's the very beginning for Meshkov. Meshkov has to go far in Ceja this season because a lot of money has been invested, and that's just another thing about pressure. Ceja is like this in priority when it comes to Champions League and Ceja League. So I don't see Meshkov winning against Kielce. Maybe definitely tormenting them at home, but Kielce go through. And why is nobody talking about Zagreb?
Yeah, no, I think the snowball has melted, and we'll move on to match of the week coming up on Saturday in Zagreb against Leuven. Christian, what is your opinion on this game?
Zagreb is really good at home, and I think it will be hard for Leuven to win there, but I really think they are the better team out of the two, so I think they will go through, but it's hard to get a good result in Zagreb. I think they said before the Champions League started that they wanted to win every home game, and they at least won a lot of them. Really hard team to play against in Zagreb, at least when there are like 10,000 in the stands. But I really like this Leuven team, playing really good handball, and with Andy Schmid as their middle back, I think they have a really good chance if Zagreb wants to play a different style than 6-0, like they usually do, a 3-2 run. So my favorite is Leuven to go through.
Tom, you'll be there in Zagreb, and
I will, Thomas. My first time since the 28th of November 2011, when a certain Ljubomir Vranjes coached his first game of the Champions League.
That is a long time ago. That's
you know why I haven't been back?
No.
You have to wait for my blog. It's all in my blog why I've never gone back to Zagreb. It's coming out now this week. Read it and weep. Zagreb. No.
Your passport is still there.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. No.
I don't know whether the Croatian border control is listening to us, but yeah, no.
They're smuggling me in the back of a car. With the spare tire. Not my spare tire, of course, but understood. Zagreb. What can you say about them this year? They're the only team to lose to Besiktas. Does that say something to you? You know? Well, what I'm trying to say is you don't know what to expect with them. Christian there says they're very strong. And what I like about what's happening in Zagreb is there's a kind of a renaissance. People are coming back. They're falling in love with their team again. The arena's full. There's a great atmosphere. And I'm sure that can cause problems. But not for this Rhein-Neckar Leuven team. I'm going to say two things. One, they lost to Besiktas. Listen to this. They lost by 1 goal at Flensburg. They lost by 1 goal at home to Veszprém. They lost by 2 away to Veszprém. They won by 1 away to Celje and won by 1 at home to Celje, but they lost against Besiktas. They also had a chance. They had a really good comeback. I watched the game against Paris, and if they'd have gone for it in the last 5 or 6 minutes, I don't know what stopped them, they didn't win it in the end. There's something not there. There's something not clicking. You don't know what you're going to get from these guys. They seem to be playing within a restraint that doesn't allow them to freely express themselves. And young players, when they are not allowed to express themselves, yeah, they'll make mistakes. But if they're afraid to make mistakes, Thomas, then you don't know what you're going to get. Now, I want to go back to something Björn said, and also something Andy Schmidt said to me in a conversation. I'm sure he won't mind me saying. Björn said the German teams do enough just to get there, so they're already here. And Andy Schmidt said the same thing to me. I never told anybody. I did an interview with him, and I never published it. And I said, "You've beaten Barcelona." He said, "So what? It was 2 points in the group phase." He said, "It doesn't matter where we come in this group phase." He said, "We know that when the time comes for the knockout, we can beat anybody." And that's confidence. And so I would be worried, and I would agree with Christian in what he said. I like this Rhein-Neckar Leuven team. How seriously will they take the knockout phase of the Champions League? Nobody knows. But if they do take it seriously, they have a really good chance. Maybe not in Zagreb, but certainly at home in Mannheim.
How seriously do they take this last 16, Björn, from your point of view?
Definitely. So they're still talking about Tom's block when he was disappointed that when he watched them playing at Vardar, they did not show up with the best team, and they said, hello, we have 3 competitions, Bundesliga, German Cup, and Champions League. So we have save some powers. So what they will not do, in my opinion, is saving the powers now in the Champions League last 16. There was a quite interesting quote of their coach, Nikolai Jakobsen. He said, after the match in Zagreb, we know exactly which team will go to the quarterfinals. He said, if we lose by 2-3 goals, it's decided in favor of us. If we lose by 10, it's decided in favor for Zagreb. So I would say they played with their full strength there. They, in contrast to the match in Barcelona, they had 2 days before, they had this tough match in Bundesliga against Melsungen for the top position in German league. This week they play against Stuttgart, which they definitely win, and I would say they switch it now. They have this second row, even the second row is quite strong. They will put this in the Bundesliga, and then they will have the full strength in Zagreb, because they know that they have to build the base there to have a nice Easter Sunday in Mannheim. So the only chance is what you see is the best defense of the group phase faces the third best defense of the group phase. So the only thing that can happen to the fans is that we see a 16-14 in favor of Zagreb, something like this, and we will not enjoy the nice match play of Leuven, but we will see a tough defense of Zagreb. But I would say even like in the last season when Zagreb faced Barcelona in the quarterfinals, they will show a great match to their fans at home. But in the end, in my opinion, they have no chance to proceed to the quarterfinals because Löwen now are at the point where they say, okay, we have reached the semi-final in the German Cup. We're still #1 in the league, and we can go to the quarterfinal in which we will face, if we win, Paris Saint-Germain. So especially for Uwe Gensheimer, who will move to Paris, a great thing. And like for Kiel, as I said, it's a special motivation for Rhein-Neckar Löwen to play against Paris.
Nemanja, you're geographically closest to Zagreb. Do you agree with Tom that you see this kind of restraint that he mentioned in the Zagreb team, and do you think maybe the team is able to, if you agree, that the team is able to free itself from that restraint in the last 16?
I think yes. I think they should be able to free themselves because they tend to play better in the knockout rounds. In the knockout rounds of the Champions League than in the group. In the group, you know, it's too many variables to count upon. But in the knockout round, you have 2 matches. You have to give it all. I call it the duel of 2 lions because both of the teams are nicknamed lions. Both Löwen and Zagreb, and that's exactly how the match is going to unveil. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen in Zagreb. First 15 minutes is going to be all Zagreb. If they don't get burned, it's Zagreb win. So Löwen chance is later on or maybe at home. Who knows? But it's what happens with Vujović's team. They're going to go for less goals than usual. They're going to go for tough defense. They're going to go for a rampant opening, and they're going to seek their chances there because looking at the squads, you know, you can't match Zagreb squad, which is made for Croatian League, for the Second League, and the Löwen squad, which is made for pretty much a world beater squad, you know, for any kind of challenge you can throw at them. But I wouldn't bet against Zagreb on this one. I actually gave them a little bit on the edge in my list, in my experts notebook, which is here. But I would say 1 win each, and Zagreb goes through.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, you know, Nemanja's got to go to his doctor tomorrow and find out what's wrong with his brain. That's what he's got to do. Either that, or burn that expert's notebook that's sitting in front of him. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen.
I'll set it on fire. Yeah, I'll set it on fire. Yeah.
quick. We have to go to the final 4 predictions here.
All right, Zagreb are going to try and break Rhein-Neckar Löwen in 2 with their defense, which is, of all the defenses, the worst and ill-disciplined defense in the entire knockout phase of the Champions League. I counted them up. I know you guys probably think I've got too much time in my hands. Thomas, listen to this. 72 2-minutes in the group phase of the Champions League. 72! Plus 3 automatic red cards. 72! The only team that came close was Celje with 70. Something about the Balkans there, right? Every other team is in the 40s. Every other team is in the 40s after 14 games in the group phase, and these guys are at 72. 72!
Yeah, but Tom, you're on Twitter. You know how brave I tend to get with my predictions, but you know, I don't want to cast a shade of doubt to what Björn had said, because that's exactly that's pretty much the best reason why Rhein-Neckar Löwen would win. But I really have to give the edge to Zagreb. Why? Well, because you know, I just have to make it interesting a little bit. You have to get one.
And you live down there, so you got to get fed in some restaurant someday.
No, I'm in Belgrade, but if I go to Zagreb, I'll mention.
Yeah.
I'll bring a copy of this extra Hangout and say,
right,
look what I said about you.
Well, guys, we've already been chatting for an hour, and it's been fantastic. As you know, we tend to wrap these Hangouts up with a quick Final 4 prediction, and I think Christian, as our special guest, you have the honor of, well, you know, honor, or Tom always calls it, you know, putting himself on the chopping block, but, you know, and Tom always wants to go last, so I have to name someone who goes first, but...
That's because I don't know who's going to be playing in the next round. How does this work?
I can do it as usual if you want.
Nah, we got You need some time to
Christian is the...
Christian. Then we get Björn first.
Okay, go first, Björn.
We go. Okay, 4 teams in Cologne.
Shall I start? Okay.
Yeah.
It just goes through quarterfinals. Kielce, Flensburg. So Flensburg goes to Cologne. Barcelona, Kiel. Barcelona goes to Cologne. West Brom, Vardar. West Brom goes to Cologne. And Paris, Leuven. Might be the surprise that Leuven go to Cologne.
Christian, your prediction?
Can he say that again? Because I don't know who's playing who. Say it again. Who's playing who, Björn? West Brom who?
West Brom, Vardar, Flensburg, Kielce, Barcelona, Kiel, and PSG, Leuven.
Okay, and then I'm gonna have West Brom to go to the Final Four, PSG to go to the Final Four, Flensburg to go to the Final Four, and Barcelona to go to the Final Four.
Cool. Thanks, Christian. Nemanja, what's your pick?
Whew. Barca, Flensburg, Kiel, and I shed a tear and say West Brom.
Tom, last words.
Well, I decided to look up the name O'Sullivan before I came on, and I realised that the name O'Sullivan comes from the southwest of Ireland and is actually he's descended from royalty because they used to be the kings of the southwest of Ireland. O'Sullivan means hawk-eyed, which we know Christian was during the Champions League. He was hawk-eyed, and I agree with him 100% exactly what he said. I'm going to go for the same 4 he went for.
I have to name them, Tom.
Yeah, I just can't remember what he said. No, I do. West Brom, Flensburg, Barcelona, PSG.
Okay.
That's the same, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you for explaining the background of Christian's surname, because I actually promised beforehand to free up some time for that. So very happy we squeezed that in. Also, you answered the question whether there's going to be no German team at the Final Four with no, all 4 of you. So thank you very much again. Christian, big thank you to you for joining us tonight. All the best for the coming matches. I hope we'll see you in the Champions League again next season. Thank you, guys. The next Hangout is coming up soon, so I'm sure I'll see you again before too long. Thanks to everyone for following us tonight, for watching. Join us again for the next Hangout at the latest out of the quarterfinals. Thank you and good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye. See you.